Hello, everybody. It's good to be with you. So today I want to talk to you about a very common and stubborn problem that's brought to me on a very regular basis. And this problem is what I call the balancing of no self with the unit. Now, there's no self, so to speak. There's no Fred, but we're still hung, at least within relativity. We're still hung with this. There's still a body. And the thing is that when a realization occurs, it doesn't occur to this, it occurs to awakeness itself. So what awakeness can see very clearly, very obviously, is that there's no Fred, there never was any Fred, there's only me. There's no such thing as others. There's just this, whatever it is, and we don't even know what it is. So that being paired, or the attempt to pair that with the day-to-day rigors of holding a job, keep paying a mortgage, taking children to school, planning for retirement, whatever it is that we're going to spend our time doing. The twain shall never meet, right? But they don't have to meet. They don't need to meet. And one doesn't need to be dominant over the other. We can entertain both spontaneously, and that's what we need to do. There's a balancing out. For instance, in the experience here, there is a balancing out. There's a Fred life, which has continued even in the presence of no Fred, because it was continuing always here as no Fred. It just gave up the pretense. It's been, the pretense of being a Fred has been given up. So there is the ongoing experience of the relative Fred life. Spiritual teacher, homeowner, husband, and a slave of dogs and all that. So there's that. And then there's this obvious seeing that there's no one here. And that continues to this day, not to the surprise extent and all the jilly jally joy thing that goes on sometimes with initial awakening. Doesn't have to, but sometimes it does. Most of the time it doesn't. But even though there's, like, every morning I come to this computer virtually every morning, and I sit down and I meet with people. And I could, if I had just woken up, because I actually went through this desert, or I call it the desert of awakening, but we want to notice that it's really a conflict of views. And so when I went through this awakening myself, it was years of this part of awakening myself, or this part of post-awakening myself. Oh, gee, I don't know, a dozen years ago, 13 years ago, something a long time ago. But I did go through it, and there was a despondency here, because suddenly, all I could see was that there was no Fred. So what in the world was I going to do? Fred secretly reasserting itself, because I spent all my time and money on spiritual seeking, and what do I do with my time and money now? Well, money will always find a home, but time, there is no time, but there's an experience of time by an imaginary character, by an illusory unit. What you're looking at here is an illusion. What's looking at this illusion is illusion. This home that I'm in, it's illusion. It's completely illusion. There's nothing true about any of this. They can say can we say it's not real? What does that even mean, right? What does real mean? I don't. I can tell you if something is true or not. I can't tell you much about real or unreal, because I can't find anything real. How am I going to compare them when I can't find anything real? But that doesn't mean there's not the experience of the everyday objects of the love in my marriage and the love in that it just springs from this home, to where the mailman can feel it. I mean, it's just really, it's pretty amazing around here, and but quietly amazing. It's not flashy at all. It's just quietly amazing, and we just notice that there are lots and lots of people that will show up when we need them to, even though we don't even know them, but they see something. When I put up a notice that Willie had cancer and that, we wanted to try this treatment, and we were going to try this treatment, and that it cost something over $15,000. You guys sent in something over $15,000. You paid for the whole thing. You did. I paid for some of it. You took some money out of savings in order to make it, and you put it right back in the savings. Thank you so much. It was really tremendous effort, and it was just so overwhelming and so unexpected, because I didn't even want to put up a GoFundMe, but I said, well, just who would go with that? It turned out a lot of people. Thank you, Susan. So that's one of my friends and students. So this no self, because if I had just gone with, well, who cares about a Willie? I mean, there's never been a dog here yet, because this is all just imagination. It's all just illusion. There's really no dog here. There's no one here, and there's nothing to do, and there's nothing wrong. Well, on one level, that's absolutely true. But on another level, it's just bullshit, because that will end up inevitably being co-opted by an ego. The divine seeing, if you will be co-opted by an ego. And what the ego will say is, wow, I just saw, notice the I has returned. And I just saw that there's nothing and no one and nothing to do and blah, 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 blah. And actually all I feel like doing is sitting on my couch. That's really, Fred, that's all I feel like doing. And you know what? One answer to that, if I don't know you and haven't worked with you or whatever, well, it wouldn't really be an answer. But just go ahead and sit there if that's what you want to do. But see how long you can sit there, because that unit ain't gonna sit on that couch but so long, I don't think. And then it's going to get up and start to do stuff, and you're going to be going, wow, wait a minute, this is ridiculous. Because there's nothing here, and there's nothing to do, and no one to do it, blah, 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 whatever. And so you'll actually get in there and screw up the natural functioning of a being that has no manager. Because see, what the thing is, when we have this divine seeing, suddenly we get the idea, oh, I see, hell, the Fred unit never had any power. Because there is no Fred. So it's ridiculous to try to follow a Fred or listen to a Fred. So what I'm going to do now, and this I'm going to do is, this is a decision-making and process. Decisions actually happen, they're not made, but it will, but they are encouraged mightily by units, yes? And or they are blocked by the messing with the unit. And when it happens, it's a rogue unit, because there are millions and millions of units working in tandem. I mean, working in harmony throughout the world, and they don't know anything about non-duality. They don't have these problems. We don't have to have these problems either, but a bunch of us seem to, because we'll think, well, there's just something, why would I want, I don't even know how I could get off this sofa to do anything. Well, if I were you and I wanted to see if I could get on the sofa, I would take my feet and I would put them on the floor, and then I would put pressure on the feet as I stood my ass up in the living room, right? That's what I would do. I would do the same thing if I just don't want to get out of bed today. Well, just, okay, I understand. I can't think of a morning where I really wanted to get out of bed. That's the truth. When the Betsy is the first thing I see, and if I didn't see her, I swear to God, I would just turn around and go to sleep forever, because there's no overwhelming desire to meet the world here. You know, it does it, but there's no overwhelming desire. What there is there's an overwhelming desire to be with Betsy and the dogs that she has just sicked on me. And so I get up, but it's sort of a forced thing. But I could resist, you know, until I couldn't. And when I say I mean the body could resist, could try to resist. But if the body was fated to be getting up that day, the body's going to get up unless it's overcome by stupid intellect. Because that's usually who's going to get this, is like real people who consider themselves to be intellectual giants. Well, non-duality is not the place for intellectual giants. I mean, I know we got Ken Wilber and you know, and Rupert Spira, and these people, they're intellectual giants. They really are. I'm not. But they are the rare exception of an intellectual giant who's made it through. Yeah, who's actually come through, and that lineage is of that whole lineage is of intellectual is of an awakening by intellectual giants, right? But it's just so rare. I mean, I can't think of another. You know, I guess Ken Wilber's got some kind of little thing, and he's an intellectual giant, but it's neither here nor there. What I'm telling you, it's rare. So if you consider yourself to be an intellectual giant, then you need to do one of two things. You need to get over that idea, or you need to pay very, very close attention, because I may be able to help even the intellectual giants out there come to recognize the simplicity of realization, the divine wonder of realization. When realization occurs, it's always stunning, because it's never, ever what you thought. I don't care what you thought. I've dealt with thousands of awakened beings, and I never had a single one of them tell me, yeah, pretty much what I was thinking. It's a surprise, because it comes from the other side. Even though I tell you the other side and where it's going to come from, the brain cannot compute it, because the brain will still be insistent that the brain is going to wake up. And the brain will still be consistent that a non-existent character named Fred is going to wake up. And neither one of those things happens. There seemed to be a Fred Davis who was mightily interested in waking up to the truth of the universe, but the truth of the universe woke up to the absence of Fred Davis. There's no Fred Davis here, so there can't be one that's had an awakening or had insights or seen certain things that make it special. How can you make it special when it doesn't exist? And that's what we don't want to own. See, we want to be the special one, and awakening makes it very, very clear that you and everything else that everything is ordinary. There's only this ordinary, this extraordinary ordinary. And any attempt into making that into the special something, whether it's the special guru or you're going to be your special experience or any of this, is just, it's all bullshit, every bit of it. If you have seen this, you know the truth of what I speak. If you have not, you could consider trusting me. And then it's a big ask. I know that's a big ask, because it's an ask that's been turned down thousands of times. But there are a couple of thousand who did trust this thing enough to at least listen with heart and soul as to what it was. I don't really know anything about souls, but with full attention, listened with full attention as this thing helped bring it into clarity. And what did I bring into clarity? Clarity. So I brought awakeness into the amazing awakening of seeing, what it is, what it's always been, which is awakeness itself. Which if you've had an experience, an awakening experience, you may have some resonance with that. If you don't, you may not have any resonance with it. Whether you have resonance or not, it won't hurt you to believe what I'm telling you here, because I'm not asking you for anything other than your attention, and I'm not even asking for that. If you want to put this down and go fix a sandwich, that's fine with me. I really don't have a dog in this hunt. And this is just an offering to myself, because the only thing that I can ever wake up is myself. But when myself wakes up when I, awakeness, wake up through a unit, I will be charmed, I will be captivated, because I will think that I am that unit. And why would I think that? Because consciousness itself has been trained by what? By consciousness, because there's nothing but consciousness. Consciousness has, at least within relativity. And so consciousness has trained consciousness to believe that consciousness is just this one thing. It's not the whole damn thing. Oh, heavens to Betsy. No. Not the whole thing. I'm the one thing. I'm just this. But the good news is that there's got to be just one of me. This is very special. I'm sure you can see that, right? And I hope that you out there in the audience here can recognize the fact that this one is the one in the middle. There's 8 billion of us, but this is the one in the middle. This is the one that's large and in charge. This is the knower. This is the one who knows lots of things. I hear Betsy in the background. She's coming in from having gotten us some dinner, so you may hear her as well. You cannot make up your mind that there is, because you have had this magical seeing. I'm not doubting that there's tons of non-dual experiences, and they're not really dual experiences, but it's too late to go into that here. Non-dual experiences. I won't go into that here. But there are plenty of awakening experiences and glimpses of truth and all of this, but they don't belong to anybody. But my mortgage belongs to somebody. Not really. There's no one here. And what house? It's illusory. And the mortgage is illusory. But what I notice is within the story of Fredness that continues after having had the divine seeing of my own true nature, is that if I don't pay that mortgage, my ass is going to be fine and divine out in the street. So I need to figure out. It doesn't feel like there's anyone here, and I know there can't be anyone here because they're just seen as all emptiness. It's all emptiness. And because see, the problem here is that we want to go to one side or the other. So there's only emptiness. Well, who's talking? Emptiness. Okay. So what is this experience about? What are you talking about? The experience of relativity continues until the body dies. And if there's a body over there, and I'm guessing there is if they cut on the computer and went to YouTube, then there's going to be a continuing experience of lifing over there. And you're not really living life, it's living you, but it's going to feel like you're living it. And the funny thing is there has to be a willingness to cooperate with this, even though whatever it is, even though we don't understand what it is. And we may not be able to see any connection between the truth of no self and the appearance of the self, a body, and its attendant master, which is ego. And it doesn't need to be the master. Ego doesn't need to be the master of these things. It needs to be the servant, but I notice in almost all cases, it is the master. Become willing. What am I asking you to do? I'm asking you to become willing. How difficult is that? How many laps do you have to do? How many hours do you have to meditate before you can become willing? None. What you can say is, I don't know what is going on here. This is all very confusing. I'm just going to back out of this the very best I can. And I'm going to ask for help. And I'm going to be open to help. Don't worry about where the help is coming from or who it's coming to. Just back out of the life. Back out. I don't understand what's going on here. I have seen that everything is empty, but it doesn't feel like that now. I have seen that there is no Fred, but it sure feels like it's a Fred reporting that there's no Fred. On and on and on. Don't try to understand all that stuff. It can't be understood. It can only be grokked. But you can get out of the way of the grokking if you get your foolish intellectual ideas of what an enlightened being should be doing or shouldn't be doing. I noticed that there used to be a lot of that feeling here, and there's not any now. I mean, that there is, I used to have the feeling that an enlightened person shouldn't read comic books, that there were enlightened people shouldn't do this and shouldn't do that. And I noticed that the unit did do that. So the idea that the enlightened being couldn't do that or shouldn't do that was absolutely incorrect. It couldn't not. That's what was happening. But it wasn't happening by or for or to anybody, just happening. So become surrendered to the idea of going with the flow that is already present. Don't try to think your way out of this. Don't think you're trying to think your way out of any problem that has to do with non-duality. And really every problem has to do with non-duality, because there can't be a problem without a Fred. But don't think Freds can't be a problem. So whatever it is that's over here, it's certainly awakeness. It knows itself to be awakeness. There's still this experiencing. And I notice that there's no resistance to this as it is. And when there's no resistance to this as it is, you'd be amazed at what can happen. So good luck with this. Hope it made sense to you. If it didn't, yeah, just stick it aside and try it again in a year. Thank you very much. I love you. Bye-bye.